Fabulous fourth grade. Today is April 27th, 2020, and it is a marvelous Monday. We are going to continue with online learning in our virtual classroom. I'm going to share the screen. Again, good morning, fabulous fourth grade leaders. Today is April 27th, and today we are going to learn about interdependence. All right, so interdependence is the relationship between two or more living things where each one benefits from the other. The learning goal, repeat after me. I can identify the components of a food chain and a food web, and I can differentiate between the two. Again, I can identify the components of a food chain and a food web, and I can differentiate between the two. So last week we talked about trophic levels, and the different trophic levels we had organisms. One organism is in a group of similar organisms would be a population. And if we had two groups of different organisms, it was a community, which is two populations. When you have more than two populations, you have an ecosystem. And within an ecosystem, you have different organisms or different populations where the organisms interact with each other in their environment. So this week, we're going to talk more about those organisms. Last week, we learned about the different trophic levels in the ecosystem. Pull that down. And what kind of organisms are at each level in the ecosystem. This week, we're going to learn more about their roles or their niche in an ecosystem. We'll start off with investigating how food chains and food webs are different. So what is a food chain? I'm going to move this up. Well, a food chain is a linear flow of energy, and it starts from a producer organism and ends at an apex predator, a detritivore, or a decomposer. And an apex predator is like the top predator in a food chain. So in the ecosystem that is maybe the rainforest, the apex predator would probably be a panther. Um, in the savanna grasslands, it could be a tiger. Usually, big cats are apex predators. Lions and tigers, panthers, they're usually the apex predator. So it's that top predator that does not have a predator. The only other predator would be a competing big cat or another animal in that same population. All right. So a food chain shows how organisms are related with each other by the food that they eat. And each level of a food chain represents a different trophic level. A food web is a system of interlocking and interdependent food chains. So more than one food chain. So we're going to continue to, continue to investigate that throughout the week. And so this is just an example of a food chain. You have the producer that gets its energy from the sun. Then you have the grasshopper, which is the primary producer that consumes the grass. Then you have a bluebird, which is the secondary consumer that consumes the grasshopper. You have a snake, which is the tertiary consumer who consumes the bluebird. And then you have the owl, which is the apex predator within this food chain, and it consumes the snake, but no one else consumes the apex predator, the owl. When the owl dies, it is broken down by decomposers. All right, so our big question, how are food chains and food webs different? We're going to continue to investigate this question in Google Classroom. Bring that back down. There we go. All right, so if you go into Michigan State, right there, you go into Michigan State, you'll look under the classwork tab, look for interdependence and today's date. You go to Chicago, classwork tab, interdependence, today's date. And if you go into Notre Dame, classwork tab, interdependence, and today's date. All right, so we're going to work from Notre Dame. I'm going to click today's date, view assignment, go to the instructions. First thing we always start off with is our FAB vocab. The FAB vocab will be ecosystems week 2. All right, and our first fabulous vocabulary word is predator. Some of these terms you may be acclimated with and some of them you may not be, but I'm going to still go over them because I want to enhance your academic vocabulary. All right, so predator. Predator is an organism that eats other organisms to live. And a predator also hunts. They hunt other organisms and then they eat those organisms in order to live. Prey. Prey is the organism that gets eaten. So the struggle is real. Biotic factor. A biotic factor are living factors in an ecosystem. So you have living things and non-living things. These are the living things. These are the biotic factors. And these are the non-living things. And the non-living things are called abiotic factors. They are the non-living parts of an ecosystem, such as the soil, the climate, and the rainfall. These are abiotic factors. But the thing about the abiotic factors is that they help you identify what ecosystem you would be in. So for maybe hot days, kind of cool nights, dry, maybe sand, lack of water, I can kind of infer that it is a desert ecosystem based off of the abiotic factors. Now, what would help me identify it completely as a desert ecosystem would be the biotic factors. And so if I go back, then the plants in a desert would be maybe the cactus. Some of the animals, I would see possibly a scorpion, I would see a couple snakes. The bacteria, not really sure about the bacteria, simply because it's so hot. If there is bacteria, it will be within the intestinal tracts of the animals there. Same thing with the fungus and the protists. All right, so the types of plants that are commonly found in an area lets you know what type of ecosystem it is. For example, in Memphis, we have a lot of deciduous trees, which change colors in the fall and they lose their leaves. And because of that, you can infer that this is a deciduous forest, that Memphis is a deciduous forest. Now, some of our national parks have a lot of pine cone trees or trees with cones. And because of that, we can infer that they are coniferous forests. All right, so let's move on. Our next term, we said abiotic factor was a non-living factor in an ecosystem. A habitat is the physical place where an organism lives. It's its home. A niche is, it's pronounced niche, N-E-E-S-H, niche. Although it's spelled niche, but it's actually pronounced niche. A niche is the position or role of an organism in an ecosystem. And then the ecosystem is all the living and non-living things in an environment. All right. A producer or an autotroph. I like autotroph. You know, you don't need to know that academic vocabulary in 4th grade, but I want you to know it before you get to the 7th grade. So it's an organism that can make its own food through the process of photosynthesis. And then a heterotroph is a consumer. It is an organism that eats living producers and other consumers for food. This is an example. The primary consumer is a primary heterotroph. There's a secondary and tertiary. There is a such thing as a chemotroph, but you don't need to know about that just yet. Certain bacterias actually go through something called chemosynthesis, which is where they break down chemicals, like they break down carbon dioxide for energy. All right, symbiosis. Symbiosis is a relationship in which two organisms live in close association with each other. He's like, yeah, they on my back, but I want them there. Yeah, say something. So they're actually eating the ticks and the little bugs off of him, and he's fine with that. In the meanwhile, I'm not going to try to mess with one of these birds because they're on his back. And the look that he's giving, don't mess with the birds on my back. Right, because they have this type of relationship. It's symbiotic. Mutualism, that just described their relationship. It's a relationship between two species in which both species benefit. So when you go to the zoo, you will see the ostrich and the gazelle living in the same habitat. And the reason is because in nature, the ostrich and the gazelle both live together simply because they look out for each other. They have a symbiotic relationship. So the gazelle can see on the side of its head. It can't see what's going on in front of it, but it can see what's going on either side. I don't know if you can, I may need to pull another image up. But if you Google a gazelle, you can see that its eyes over here. And the ostrich, its eyes are facing forward. And so when one is bent down eating, the other is up looking around. And then when the other puts his head down, the other is up and it's looking around, simply because they have a mutualistic relationship where I got your back while you eat, and I got your back while you eat. So that is their mutualistic relationship. Commensalism. So it's a relationship between two organisms in which one organism benefits and the other is unaffected, meaning it's not harmed. So this is the remora fish, and the remora fish swims closely beside the sharks. And so when the shark eats other organisms, it eats the little pieces of meat that come off the organism. It doesn't bother the shark. It's just like, why hunt when I could just go along for the ride? And so it just eats the little pieces of meat that the shark doesn't get to. Sharks are messy eaters, and remoras love it. But it does not bother the shark. It just swims beside it and eats. Sometimes they swim up under the belly, but most of the time they just swim beside it. All right. Our next one is parasitism. Parasitism is the relationship in which one organism lives on or in a host and harms it. So this is the coronavirus. And the coronavirus, when it goes into a host, it is a parasite. It becomes a parasite. Outside of the host, it's just a regular virus. But when it goes into a host, the coronavirus becomes a parasite. And the parasite replicates itself. The virus, it replicates itself, and it harms the host. It's so important right now that you are still practicing social distancing, that you're still washing your hands and staying at home with your family where it's safe. And so the type of relationship that the coronavirus has with humans is a parasitic one. We call it parasitism. All right. So after you go over your academic vocabulary 2 times, I want you to play the match game. All right, I'm going to pull it down just a little bit and let's go. All right. This is its habitat. Relationship, I don't see it. Symbiosis, no, symbiosis is the relationship. Oh, there. No, the prey. There we go. And the niche. 23 seconds. We're not gonna play again. All right. So I want you to play the vocabulary game at least 2 times. And then after you play the vocabulary game at least 2 times, I want you to go back to Google Classroom. And the first thing was study fab vocab. And it's actually a Brain Pop video. I'll go in and I'll edit that. I don't know why I typed YouTube, but it's a Brain Pop video. The password, I'll put it inside of the yeah, I'll put it inside of the instructions, but it's still the same, Davis T217. Yeah, so, and then same thing. So then we'll log in. And all I want you to do is to watch the video. You don't have to do the quiz on here because I have 2 thinking questions that are based off of the video. And you'll play the video and I'll let you just play it on your own because it's gonna sound kind of digital when Ms. Davis plays the video, but just play it on your own. You saw the password and the username. I'm gonna close that back out. And then after you watch the video at least 2 times, because I love it when you do everything 2 times, then I want you to go to the thinking question. And the thinking question is a Google Docs. I've made a copy for each scholar. All you do is that you answer these 2 questions. How is a food web different from a food chain? We just talked about it and you'll see it in the video. How might a lack of sunlight disrupt the food web or even the food chain? I got one. I'll go in there, I'll edit that. Right, and so then answer that question. And then once you get done answering the question, press the turn in button. Go back here. Where the share button is in blue will be turn in. And so you'll answer the thinking question and then you'll turn it in. And after you answer the thinking question and you turn it in, some of us did not complete our readworks last week. Ms. Davis extended the assignment until the end of the week. So please complete that because you will have 2 additional readworks this week. And then here we have the Legends of Learning. So I put a new playlist in. I updated the one for today. I'm going to log in. You're going to log in as a student. Play down. You're going to play your teacher's playlist. My playlist is the same code that I use to log in Brain Pop, and so it'll be Davis T217. It's the same code, same password, and then your purple login because you already have a student account. You're going to log in with your Google account. Select your name. You're going to scroll down to the bottom and energy transferring in the ecosystem. All right, it's going to load. And please make sure that you're playing these games because I do get a report and it lets me know who understands, who doesn't understand, and if I need to reach out to you privately and to just work with you one-on-one with this particular topic. So please, 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 please log in and let me know. Ranisha, I see you. I'm going to respond in a moment. All right, so once the game has loaded up, and it's actually, I think I put 4 games in this time. I think I put 4 games in this time. One of them is you're building a food chain in a food web, and it gives you a couple clues to where the organisms actually go. Another one is you're a predator hunting prey. And so that's the symbiosis or the symbiotic relationship. And another one is also an ecosystem builder. There was one game, but I took it out. And I know you're going to notice that it's not in there. It is taking a while to load. So there was it was an ecosystem builder where you actually had to plant producers and decomposers, carnivores, and herbivores. And we didn't have any omnivores, but you had the herbivores, the carnivores, the decomposers, and the producers. And you had to keep the ecosystem growing by reintroducing new organisms. So if you had too many predators, then you needed to add more the decomposers. If you had too many producers, then you needed to add more herbivores. And if you had too many herbivores, you needed to add more carnivores. And so, so it is not loading. I think Ms. Davis' internet is acting special today. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna move on, but you just pull up the Legends of Learning. All right, I'm gonna go back here. Okay, so again, you have to study your fab vocab, watch the Brain Pop video, and I'm gonna edit that, and then complete the thinking questions here. Turn it in, and then after you complete the thinking questions, if you did not complete both read works from last week, complete those, and because you will have 2 new read works this week, and then also go in and play the Legends of Learning game. You have 3, maybe 4 games uploaded in the teacher playlist for food webs and food chains. All right. So that is it for today. You guys are rock stars. I'm so very proud of all of the work that you have been doing. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Continue to do your Compass Learning, continue to do your Zearn, and I do want you to do your Legends of Learning. May the force be with you. We're here from 9 to 3 o'clock. Send an email, send a text message, send a message on Dojo class, Google Classroom. That's pretty much it. Have fun today. Go outside, get some sunlight energy, get some vitamin D from the sun, and just have fun with your family. Have a great day, promise. Bye.